How to talk to people in pairs. My daily day's struggle with English was a silent, persistent battle fought within the confines of my own mind. Every morning, the thought of speaking even a single sentence sent a shiver of anxiety down my spine. I yearned to express myself clearly, to connect with others, but the words seemed to vanish, replaced by an overwhelming sense of inadequacy. This linguistic barrier felt like an invisible wall. Observing how people speak English, especially native speakers, only amplified my fear and self-doubt. Their effortless flow, their nuanced expressions, felt like an insurmountable mountain I could never hope to climb. I'd watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, and simply marvel at their fluency, wondering if I would ever reach such a level of comfortable, natural conversation. It was a daunting prospect. The first major hurdle, I quickly realized, was simply how to learn words effectively, not just memorizing them in isolation. I tried endless flashcards, vocabulary apps, and countless online lists, but often the words would slip away as quickly as they appeared. True comprehension required more than rote learning. It demanded context and consistent, meaningful exposure to language in its natural habitat. This insight changed my approach fundamentally. Why you must listen became my new mantra, a profound realization after weeks of struggling with speaking. Listening was not just about hearing sounds, it was about internalizing rhythms, intonation, and common phrases. I started actively seeking out English audio, immersing myself in podcasts, movies, and music, not merely as entertainment, but as a critical tool for language acquisition. It was an eye-opening shift. My daily routine transformed. Mornings began with English news, afternoons with sitcoms, and evenings with audiobooks. This constant auditory input slowly, almost imperceptibly, started reshaping my understanding of the language. My brain began to recognize patterns, predict upcoming words, and even differentiate subtle nuances in pronunciation. It was like building a foundational bridge for future communication. However, listening alone wasn't enough. The words needed to be solidified. That's why reading is so important, I discovered. Reading provided the visual reinforcement, showing how words were spelled, how sentences were structured, and how ideas flowed logically. It allowed me to slow down, absorb new vocabulary at my own pace, and revisit challenging passages until comprehension clicked into place. I started with simplified readers, then moved to articles, and eventually short stories. Each paragraph I read solidified my understanding of grammar and expanded my passive vocabulary. Why reading is important became evident as I noticed my written English improving, and surprisingly, my ability to recognize words during listening exercises also sharpened considerably. Reading truly complements listening. Despite these improvements in comprehension, the fear of speaking persisted. English talking practice seemed like an impossible leap. The words were in my head, but they felt trapped, unable to escape my lips without immense effort and self-consciousness. This gap between understanding and producing speech was the most frustrating part of my journey. I needed a new strategy. Then came the simple, yet revolutionary idea: start talking at home. My room became a safe haven, a private laboratory for verbal experimentation. I began by describing my daily routine aloud in English, narrating mundane tasks like making coffee or tidying my desk. It felt silly at first, like talking to myself, but it slowly built confidence and familiarity. This was how to take first step for talking, I realized. It wasn't about perfect grammar or complex sentences, it was about simply making sounds, getting my mouth used to forming English words. I'd practice greetings, simple questions, and common phrases repeatedly, focusing on pronunciation and rhythm. This solo practice, free from judgment, became my secret weapon. Soon, the solo practice at home wasn't enough. I needed interaction. The idea of how to talk to people in pairs emerged as the next logical step. I hesitantly approached a friend who was also learning English, suggesting we meet weekly for conversation practice. The thought was terrifying, but the desire for progress pushed me forward. Our initial sessions were awkward, filled with long pauses and fumbled words. We would often correct each other, sometimes leading to mutual embarrassment. Yet, we persisted. Learning words actively during these conversations, looking them up on the spot, made them stick much better than any flashcard ever could. This real-time application was invaluable. We started with structured topics, describing our weekends or discussing a news article. We focused on simple exchanges, building up our stamina for longer conversations. How people speak English truly became clearer as we tried to mimic natural dialogue, incorporating common idioms and expressions we'd heard in our listening practice. It was a fascinating, often humorous, process. Why you must listen became even more apparent during these paired practices. Listening attentively to my partner's words, understanding their questions, and responding appropriately was crucial. It wasn't just about my output, it was about genuine communication, a two-way street. Misunderstandings quickly highlighted areas where my listening skills needed further refinement. Active listening was paramount. My daily day's struggle transformed from a silent internal battle to an active, often vocal, learning process. There were still days filled with frustration, moments where I felt like I hadn't made any progress at all. But these were now punctuated by small victories, a perfectly formed sentence, a quick-witted reply, a conversation that flowed effortlessly for minutes. English talking practice became less of a chore and more of an exciting challenge. Each conversation, whether with my practice partner or daringly with a native speaker, was an opportunity to apply everything I had learned. The fear didn't vanish entirely, but it receded, replaced by a growing sense of capability and eagerness to communicate. It was truly liberating. Why reading is so important continued to play a significant role. Before our paired conversations, would often read articles or short stories related to our planned topic. This pre-reading helped me gather relevant vocabulary and ideas, making it easier to contribute meaningfully to the discussion. It armed me with confidence and gave me talking points. Why reading is important also became clear in my ability to understand different registers and tones. From formal news reports to casual blog posts, reading exposed me to the breadth and depth of the English language. This comprehensive exposure, combined with my active listening, created a powerful synergy that propelled my learning forward at an accelerated pace. Starting talking at home remained a foundational practice. Even as I grew more comfortable conversing with others, I continued to narrate my thoughts and actions in English when alone. It was a mental warm-up, a way to keep my verbal muscles agile and ready. This consistent self-practice reinforced new vocabulary and grammar structures automatically. How to take first step for talking became less of a monumental task and more of a series of small, manageable actions. I broke down my goals. First, speak one sentence today, then, hold a 5-minute conversation next week. Each tiny step, no matter how insignificant it seemed, contributed to a larger, more confident linguistic journey. Patience was key. The benefits of learning words through real interaction became undeniable. When a new word or phrase came up in conversation, its meaning was immediately contextualized and therefore much easier to recall later. This practical application solidified my understanding far more effectively than isolated memorization ever could. My vocabulary felt truly alive and functional. Understanding how people speak English in diverse settings also broadened my perspective. I noticed regional accents, colloquialisms, and variations in speed. This observation made me realize that perfect English was less important than comprehensible English. It eased the pressure to sound like a native and allowed me to focus on clear communication. Why you must listen continued to be the bedrock of my progress. I started listening not just for words, but for emotions, intentions, and subtext. This deeper level of listening allowed me to respond more appropriately and empathetically, making my conversations richer and more meaningful. It transcended mere language learning, it became about connection. My daily day's struggle slowly morphed into a daily learning adventure. Yes, challenges still arose, but they no longer felt like insurmountable obstacles. They were opportunities to learn, to refine, to grow. The fear of making mistakes diminished as I embraced them as part of the learning process, valuable feedback for improvement. English talking practice sessions expanded beyond just my initial partner. I joined online language exchange groups, connecting with people from various countries. This exposure to different accents and cultural perspectives enriched my understanding of global English and boosted my confidence exponentially. Every new voice was a chance to practice and improve. Why reading is so important remained a constant companion. I began reading books purely for pleasure, delving into English literature that once seemed impossible. This pleasurable reading further solidified my grammar, expanded my vocabulary, and deepened my appreciation for the language's nuances. It was no longer a chore but a genuine joy. Why reading is important truly underpinned my ability to construct complex thoughts. The logical flow of arguments in well-written texts subtly taught me how to organize my own ideas for effective communication. It provided models for expression, showing me how to articulate sophisticated concepts clearly and concisely. My writing skills also benefited greatly. Starting talking at home evolved. Instead of just narrating, I started practicing expressing opinions, debating with my imaginary self, and even preparing short speeches. This advanced solo practice allowed me to explore more complex grammatical structures and expand my range of expression before attempting them in real conversations. It was invaluable preparation. How to take first step for talking became second nature. The initial paralyzing fear had been replaced by a quiet determination. I understood that every spoken word, every attempted sentence, no matter how flawed, was a step forward. The courage to initiate conversations now came more naturally, a testament to consistent effort. The dynamic of how to talk to people in pairs transformed. We moved beyond structured topics, engaging in spontaneous, free-flowing conversations about anything and everything. The ease and comfort grew, making it feel less like practice and more like genuine friendship. This authentic connection was the true reward of our shared effort. We continued to learn words together, often introducing new vocabulary to each other. We'd share interesting articles or videos, then discuss them, consciously trying to incorporate new phrases into our dialogue. This collaborative learning approach made the process fun and highly effective, reinforcing our shared linguistic journey and mutual support. Understanding how people speak English in different contexts became a fascinating study. I paid attention to formal settings versus informal chats, professional jargon versus casual slang. This nuanced observation helped me adapt my own speech, choosing appropriate vocabulary and tone for various situations. It truly enhanced my communicative competence. Why you must listen was now an intuitive act. My ear had become finely tuned to English, picking up subtle cues and unsaid meanings. I could follow rapid conversations, even in noisy environments, with much greater ease. This improved listening ability made me a better conversationalist, able to engage more deeply with others. My daily day's struggle with English had largely dissipated, replaced by a quiet confidence. While perfection remained an elusive goal, the ability to communicate effectively and comfortably had become a reality. I no longer dreaded speaking. Instead, I actively sought opportunities to engage, eager to practice and expand my linguistic horizons. English talking practice was no longer confined to specific sessions. Every interaction became an opportunity. Whether ordering coffee, asking for directions, or participating in a group discussion, I embraced every chance to use English. This continuous, real-world practice accelerated my progress far beyond what I had initially imagined possible. Why reading is so important continued to broaden my understanding of complex ideas. I could now tackle academic papers and intricate novels, expanding my knowledge base beyond language itself. Reading became a gateway to new subjects, making me a more well-rounded individual with diverse interests. It was an unexpected, yet welcome, bonus. Why reading is important also played a role in understanding cultural context. Through books and articles, I gained insights into various English-speaking cultures, their histories, and their perspectives. This cultural literacy enhanced my ability to connect with native speakers on a deeper level, fostering more meaningful and respectful interactions. Starting talking at home transitioned into refining my voice and style. I practiced delivering presentations, rehearsing interview answers, and even experimenting with different accents. This advanced solo work allowed me to develop a unique personal voice in English, one that felt authentic and truly representative of myself. How to take first step for talking transformed from a hesitant shuffle to a confident stride. The initial fear was replaced by a sense of adventure. I learned that every attempt, successful or not, was a valuable lesson. The journey of language acquisition became a source of immense personal growth and satisfaction. The experience of how to talk to people in pairs became a foundation for broader social interaction. From one friend, I moved to small groups, then larger gatherings. The skills I honed in those intimate paired sessions translated seamlessly into more dynamic, multi-person conversations, allowing me to participate fully and freely. We always encouraged each other to learn words from our conversations, making mental notes or quickly jotting down new phrases. This shared commitment to vocabulary expansion kept our discussions fresh and challenging, ensuring continuous learning for both of us. It was a testament to the power of collaborative effort and mutual encouragement. Observing how people speak English in diverse professional and social contexts became an unconscious habit. I noticed subtle power dynamics conveyed through language, how humor was used, and how disagreements were navigated. This deeper understanding transcended basic communication, moving into the realm of social intelligence. Why You Must Listen was no longer about comprehension alone, it was about truly engaging. I listened to understand, not just to reply. This active, empathetic listening opened doors to deeper relationships and richer cultural exchanges, making every conversation a valuable connection rather than just a language exercise. My daily day's struggle had become a distant memory, replaced by a profound sense of empowerment. The fluency I once dreamed of was now a tangible reality, enabling me to pursue new opportunities, travel more confidently, and forge connections across borders. The initial struggle had forged a resilient learner. English talking practice became an integral part of my identity. It was no longer a separate activity but a natural extension of my daily life. The confidence I gained in speaking English spilled over into other areas, boosting my self-esteem and problem-solving abilities. It was a holistic transformation. Why reading is so important was evident in my ability to articulate complex arguments. The logical structures absorbed from diverse texts enabled me to express nuanced opinions with clarity and precision, both verbally and in writing. It elevated my intellectual engagement with the world. Why reading is important also opened doors to specialized knowledge. I could now read industry reports, scientific papers, and academic journals in English, expanding my professional horizons significantly. It was a key enabler for continuous professional development and staying current in my field globally. Starting talking at home eventually faded as a distinct practice, because talking in English became second nature everywhere. The lines blurred between practice and real conversation. My inner monologue often shifted to English, a true sign of deep immersion and comfort with the language. How to take first step for talking became a story I shared with others. I became a mentor for friends beginning their English journey, encouraging them to embrace imperfection and celebrate small victories, just as I had. My experience served as a powerful testament to the effectiveness of these strategies. The ability to talk to people in pairs evolved into effortless group discussions and public speaking engagements. The intimate practice sessions had built a robust foundation, allowing me to navigate more complex social dynamics with ease and confidence. My initial fear of speaking had truly been conquered. Every day, I continue to learn words, encountering new expressions and idioms that add flavor and precision to my language. The learning never truly stops, but it is now an enjoyable exploration rather than a daunting challenge. This continuous growth keeps my English vibrant and adaptive. Understanding how people speak English globally has also become a journey of cultural appreciation. I've learned to appreciate the beauty of different accents and regional variations, celebrating the diversity within the English-speaking world rather than striving for one perfect pronunciation. Why you must listen remains a core principle, not just for language but for life. It teaches empathy, patience, and true understanding. Listening actively connects me more deeply with individuals and communities, fostering meaningful relationships that transcend linguistic boundaries. My daily day's struggle with English is now a distant memory, replaced by a profound sense of accomplishment. The journey was long, filled with challenges, but every single effort, every hesitant word, every hour of practice contributed to this incredible transformation. I am fluent. English talking practice has become an intuitive, joyful part of my existence. The once impossible dream of speaking freely is my reality. All the strategies, listening, reading, starting at home, talking in pairs, intertwine to build not just a language skill, but a new, more confident version of myself.